There's a quiet transformation that takes place in the heart of someone who has lost the person they once built their life around. It doesn't happen in a day. It creeps in, slowly and softly, like the fading of a familiar song. At first, the world feels colder. Days feel longer. Their steps feel heavier. But over time, the elderly begin to see life not through the eyes of someone who's lost everything, but as someone who now sees everything with deeper meaning. After losing the ones they love, they start to live with a different rhythm, a slower breath, a quieter wisdom. They begin to notice things others miss. They smile differently, love more intentionally, and speak less, but say more. This is not just grief. It is transformation. A deep rerouting of the soul. In this video, we will explore what really changes in the way the elderly see the world after they've lost the ones who meant the most to them. Every silence, every gaze, every soft sigh has a story behind it. If this reflection resonates with you, or makes you remember someone you love, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming reflections on love, memory, and the beauty of life. Number 1. They learn that love doesn't leave, even when people do. When someone they love is gone, the first feeling is often unbearable emptiness. But in time, the elderly come to realize that love, real love, is not tied to the body, the voice, or even the presence of the person. Love becomes something spiritual, something eternal. They start to feel it in the scent of clothes that haven't been washed for months, in the way the sunlight lands on the same chair every afternoon, or in the sudden tear that wells up when a song plays in the background. The ones they've lost may no longer walk beside them, but their love has taken up permanent residence within. It speaks in the silence, lives in their decisions, and pulses quietly in everything they still cherish. They carry love now not in their arms, but in their bones, their breath, their being. Number 2, they stop rushing through moments. Time once seemed endless. Now, it feels fragile. After losing someone close, the elderly begin to treat time not as something to conquer, but as something to honor. They stop rushing through meals. They take longer walks. They listen to the full story, even when it repeats. They know what it means to run out of time with someone. And so, every shared cup of tea, every hand held, every phone call becomes sacred. They understand that even the mundane can become memory. Even the ordinary can become legacy. So they slow down, not because their bodies are aging, but because their hearts are wiser now. They have seen how quickly moments disappear, and they choose to linger in them fully, while they still can. Number 3, they speak to the ones who are gone without needing a reply. To someone who hasn't experienced deep loss, it might seem strange to speak into the air. But to the elderly who have loved and lost, this has become second nature. They speak to the dead the way they once spoke to the living, softly, gently, with humor, with grief. They say goodnight. They ask questions. They share their day. And no, they don't expect an answer. But still, they feel heard. Because connection doesn't die with the body. It remains, just in different form. These conversations are not acts of madness. They are acts of love. Of remembrance. Of faith that some bonds, the deepest ones, cannot be severed by death. Number 4, they appreciate the people who are still here so much more. The loss of one person has a way of illuminating everyone who remains. After grief, the elderly often become more tender toward those around them. A visit from a neighbor becomes a highlight. A grandchild's laugh becomes a melody. Even the most fleeting of interactions carries weight. They've seen how quickly someone can be taken. They've felt the chill of empty seats. And so, they pour more attention, more gratitude, more presence into every relationship they still have. They don't hold grudges the same way. They say I love you more often. They show up, even when they're tired. Because after loss, they know, love must be given now, while we still have the chance. Number 5, they carry both sorrow and joy at the same time. The elderly learn that grief doesn't erase joy, it deepens it. They can be laughing at a memory while tears roll down their cheeks. They can feel thankful and heartbroken in the very same breath. Life becomes layered. Emotions are no longer clean and separated. And that's okay. After loss, they no longer strive to move on. They learn to move with grief. To carry it like a small stone in their pocket, something that reminds them of what once was, but doesn't stop them from walking forward. They understand that sorrow isn't something to be cured. It's something to be integrated. And joy, when it does arrive, is all the more profound because of the pain that came before it. Number 6, they begin to measure life in moments, not years. After experiencing loss, the elderly often stop counting birthdays or anniversaries as benchmarks of life. Instead, they begin measuring time in a new way. A meaningful glance. A shared silence. A sunrise that reminded them of someone's smile. The passing of years becomes less important than the passing of moments that carry emotion and meaning. They understand now that a single afternoon can hold more value than an entire year lived in distraction. They no longer chase achievements, they savor presence. Time is no longer something to master or stretch. It is something to be still in, to sit with, to honor while it's here. They live smaller, but they feel deeper. Number 7, they carry a quiet strength that doesn't need to be seen. Strength in old age doesn't always look like it used to. It's not in lifting, fixing, or providing. It's in enduring. In waking up each day despite the empty seat at the table. In continuing to cook for one. And smiling when they're asked how they're doing, even when their voice trembles. The loss of a loved one teaches them a strength that is silent and visible, but fierce. It's the kind of strength that doesn't seek attention or applause. It simply is, constant and unshakable. This strength allows them to comfort others, even while they carry wounds that never fully close. It teaches them that resilience is not about forgetting pain, but about living with it, gracefully. Number 8, they feel the weight of silence more profoundly. Silence changes after loss. It's no longer just the absence of sound, it becomes the presence of memory. The elderly begin to listen differently. A room that once echoed with laughter now carries a stillness that says everything. They don't fill the silence with noise anymore. They let it speak. In that silence, they hear footsteps that no longer echo, laughter that lives only in memory, and words that were left unsaid. But they don't run from it. Instead, they let it wrap around them like a familiar coat. It's in the silence that they reconnect with the ones they've lost. It's not emptiness, it's reverence. Number 9, they realize that grief has no deadline. When others expect them to move on or feel better, the elderly often just smile. They know better. Grief has no timetable. It arrives unannounced and lingers quietly. Some days feel lighter, others feel just as heavy as the day they said goodbye. They no longer try to explain this to anyone. They've accepted that grief is a companion now, a reminder of deep love that had to end too soon. They've stopped trying to heal in a way that erases the pain. Instead, they learn to live alongside it, to make room for it, to let it stay as long as it needs to. Because they know, some loves are too great to ever truly say goodbye to. Number 10, they keep the traditions alive, even if they're the only one left. Even when no one else remembers, they do. The way their spouse liked their coffee. The song they danced to on their anniversary. The silly thing their child used to say. So they continue the traditions, baking the same recipe every holiday, lighting the same candle, setting the extra plate. Not because they're clinging to the past, but because it deserves to live on. Even in quiet. Even in solitude. These small acts become sacred rituals, ways to keep love tangible, to honor what once was, and to whisper to the world, they mattered. They still do. Number 11, they see through pettiness more clearly. After losing someone close, so many things seem small. Arguments. Ego. Material possessions. The elderly often see through the noise of life with piercing clarity. They no longer have the patience for grudges or meaningless drama. Their priorities shift. They care more about peace than being right. More about connection than control. They don't waste their words on proving points, they use them to build bridges. And when they choose silence, it's not avoidance. It's wisdom. Because they know how short life is. And they'd rather spend their days loving than winning. Number 12, they find comfort in the unseen. After loss, the elderly often begin to sense something beyond the physical world. A feeling that their loved one is still near. A dream that feels more real than imagined. A moment of stillness that feels like a message. It's not something they talk about often because they know not everyone understands. But in their hearts, they feel it. A presence. A nudge. A kind of soft, sacred reassurance that the love they once held is still with them in ways that can't be explained. They don't need proof, they just know. And that knowing brings peace. Number 13, they keep telling the same stories, and there's a reason. You might hear them tell the same story for the 5th or 50th time. But listen. Those stories are their way of keeping someone alive. Every retelling is a celebration. A rebellion against forgetting. They're not trying to entertain, they're trying to preserve. The memories are treasures, and they're offering them to you, piece by piece. When they speak of the past, they are not lost in it, they are honoring it. And when you listen with your full heart, you're helping them carry what they can no longer carry alone. Number 14, they stop pretending they have all the answers. Loss has a way of humbling a person. The elderly know now that life is filled with mysteries we can't solve. They've stopped needing everything to make sense. Instead, they lean into faith, into trust, into the beauty of not knowing. They don't rush to fix pain or explain it away. They simply sit with it. Hold your hand through it. They've learned that sometimes the greatest wisdom isn't in giving advice, it's in being present, quietly, completely. Because they've learned, presence is everything. Number 15, they choose legacy over longevity. When the ones they love are no longer here, the elderly begin to think more about what they'll leave behind. Not in terms of wealth or possessions, but in terms of impact. They wonder, did I love well? Did I make others feel seen? Did I pass down what truly matters? They begin to shape their legacy through every word they speak, every lesson they offer, every act of kindness they perform. Because they've realized, living forever isn't the goal. Living meaningfully is. Number 16, they learn to live with an open heart, even if it hurts. Losing someone they love cracked their heart open. But instead of closing it, they leave it open. Vulnerable. Tender. Willing to love again. They risk the pain of more loss because they've learned that loving is always worth it. Even if it breaks them. They welcome hugs longer. They say I love you more freely. They cry without apology. And that openness becomes their strength, not their weakness. They've seen what happens when love is withheld, and they refuse to let that happen again. Number 17, they realize that being remembered is the most precious thing. After losing someone, the elderly start to think more about memory, how fleeting it is, how powerful it is. They realize that what they long for most is to be remembered. Not just for what they did, but for who they were. The way they laughed. The way they made you feel safe. The way they showed up. And so, they try to leave behind memories that will stay. They live more intentionally. Speak more softly. Hold you a little tighter. Because in the end, memory is what we become. Number 18, they begin to cherish solitude instead of fearing it. In their younger years, solitude might have felt like loneliness. But after deep loss, the elderly often find peace in their own company. They sit quietly with their thoughts. They remember without distraction. They embrace solitude not as emptiness, but as intimacy, with themselves, with memory, with something beyond. They no longer run from being alone. Instead, they sit with it and listen to what the silence has to teach. Number 19, they value presence over perfection. After loss, the elderly no longer expect perfect holidays, perfect families, or perfect lives. They're content with the messy, the real, the present. A dinner with all the grandkids even if the food burns. A birthday call even if it's late. A hug, even if no words are spoken. They don't chase the picture-perfect life anymore. They just want to feel love while they still can. That's enough. Number 20, they love with the kind of depth that only grief can teach. When you lose someone, your love doesn't disappear, it deepens. The elderly love more quietly, more fiercely, more completely than ever before. They love without condition, without pretense, without demand. Because they know that love is the only thing we take with us when we go. And the only thing that truly stays behind. If this video reminded you of someone you've loved and lost, or someone you still have the chance to love, take a moment today to reach out. To hold them close. To say what matters. And if this journey through the heart of grief and memory touched your soul, please support this channel by liking this video, subscribing, and tapping the notification bell. It means more than you know, and it helps us continue making reflections like this one for those who need it most. Thank you for being here. You are never alone.